Hi folks, and welcome to Let's Click Photography, where today we're going to be covering possibly one of the most commonly asked questions that I see on internet forums when it comes to landscape photography. Where exactly am I supposed to focus? And to cover that, to make sure that we get it accurate, we're going to have to touch upon one of the most daunting subjects, certainly I found anyway. We're going to do that, but we're going to then learn how to make it really easy for ourselves. We're out in the Peak District National Park and I've got a shot lined up so we can get straight into it. Our shot includes foreground that we've got very close to the camera here in this millstone. We want to shoot to get good level of acceptable sharpness from the front of this millstone, and we're going to go all the way up into the background there. And on top there you can see that little mound right in the center of your screen. That's called Mother Cap, and I actually filmed this video up there 2 days ago now, and when I got home realized I'd not turned my microphone on. The technique we're going to use today is kind of the hyperfocal distance rule in reverse. You see, hyperfocal distance informs us where to focus to get the best possible equalization of sharpness front to back, but it relies on us giving the input to get the point of focus. So I'll give you an example just so you know what I'm talking about. Hyperfocal distance is a mathematical formula: focal length squared divided by your f-stop times the diameter of the circle of confusion. So it's already getting a little bit daunting. I know, don't worry, we're not going to use this method, but it is just important to mention it. To give an example, I would take, and I'm going to use some easy maths right now, I would take a focal length of, let's say, 20 and square it. That gives me a number of 400. I would then take an F number, let's say F20, times that by the circle of confusion. And don't worry if you don't know what circle of confusion is, but in this full frame camera has a measurement of 0.03 millimeters. And if we take our F number of 20 and times that by 0.03, we get 0.6. 400, divide that by 0.6, which, if my brain is working this early in the morning, gives us somewhere in the region of 666. We're then going to divide that by 1,000 because that's a measurement in millimeters. That's then going to give us a measurement of 0.66, and that is in meters. We can focus at 0.66 meters away and get good front to back sharpness. What that relies on is us giving hyperfocal distance formula all the information, and it doesn't necessarily correspond to the landscape that we're studying. And lastly, it's just not fun. So let's not rip all of the fun out of photography. Let's make it easy for ourselves. And a variant of hyperfocal distance, which works really well out in the field, is something called the double the distance focusing method. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. Okay, so the first thing that we need to note is that our plane of focus is denoted on our camera by this symbol right here. And that symbol shows us where the point of focus, the plane of focus, is in our camera. And that is a straight line. So if you've got that perfectly vertical, that'll be straight down. Here you can see I've got the camera on a bit of a angle. So we just follow the line down, and that gives us our starting point, which is about there. So I place my foot there. We're literally doing the practical version today. So my foot is there. The nearest point that I want to get in focus is here, is these blades of grass around our millstone. And in a very crude way of measuring, I'm just going to take a step. There we go. And I've got that step there. So I'm going to try and think about how big my stride is here and just make the same stride again. And that will put me in and around here. So this is going to be our focus point. Now we're going to set our focus point into position And I'm going to zoom in, and you see that little blade of grass right there that actually fell off my boot as I stood there, so I know exactly where to focus. So I can autofocus in at that point. I can then turn my camera off autofocus into manual focus, and that'll stay focused in there. I'm bitten by midges this morning. There's tons of them around here. I don't know if you can see them flying around in the video, but there's loads of the buggers. The way this method works, the double the distance method, is much like hyperfocal distance. The point at which you focus, from halfway to that point, you're going to have acceptable sharpness if you dial in the right aperture. And halfway in, because we're doubling the distance, is exactly where we want our focus, our sharpness to start. What our focal point is the point of maximum sharpness, the point of maximum clarity within our image. It is the start, it determines the start and the end of our depth of field. So if we move our focal point further in that direction, let's say onto the grass over here, then we're going to lose focus in the foreground. If we bring our focal point any further forward and focus on the front of the millstone, then we're going to lose focus in the background. And so it is this double the distance focus point that gets us that perfect equalization of sharpness, where we have the sharpness in the foreground and the sharpness in the background.
Now let me just show you exactly what I mean here on these pictures that I took on the first video that I recorded. And the red box on the shot denotes where my focus point was. So on this first shot here, we're going to see that my focus point was the double the distance focus point, the nearest area to the camera, that way to have reasonably acceptably sharp was the foliage down at the bottom there, the greenery. And so I took the distance from the camera to that point and then doubled it, and that's where the focus. And if we zoom in on the front of the image there, on that foliage, you're going to see that it's pretty damn sharp. And then as we go up through the image to infinity and all that background miles in distance, we'll see that that is also reasonably sharp. Now next up, let me show you the difference if I focus up close. So if I focused on that green foliage at the front there, that is the closest bit to the camera. So I'm going to get that even sharper. So this isn't now acceptably sharp. This is sharp. This is the point of maximum sharpness, the point of maximum clarity. But what happens is, even though that now is super sharp, as we jump up through the image, we're going to see that we completely lose any sense of sharpness as we head towards the background, and it drops off really quite quickly there, to the point where there's no sharpness on the rocks or in the background whatsoever. And then the third image, I have moved my focus point over towards the rocks, a bit further back, closer to the rocks. And if we look at our foreground now, we'll see that we've lost any sharpness in there. It's mushy, it's nothing. There is no sense of sharpness. You can't rescue that in post. But if we go to the background, of course, where as you would expect it to be, those rocks are really sharp, and nicely so, but have not got it all the way through the image. So the double the distance method, going back to the first photo, is the way to get this sharpness all the way through the image.
Now, I know that at this kind of distance, just through experience of doing it, if I dial in between f11 and f16, I'm going to get the sharpness that I'm looking for in terms of the distance from the focal length. So I'll get it from 75 centimeters through to infinity. So let's just test that theory out. I'm going to dial in f14. I'm going to take that shot.
So this is our shot. As we zoom in to the front there, we're going to just see it's super sharp at that millstone, and we go up all the way through the image, and we've got that same level of sharpness at the back there on mother cap. And we've done that by using this double the distance focusing method. And here is a few other images that I've taken recently that use exactly the same method.
So now you know where to focus, but do you know how to focus? Because the focusing modes within our cameras can sometimes lead us astray, and if we're not using the right one, we won't obtain good focus. And so that's why I created this video that's on screen now. That's going to explain the focusing modes within your camera, what they do, and which one you need to choose in order to obtain maximum sharpness at the point that you need it. I've been Dave, and this has been Let's Click Photography, and I will see you on that one or on the next one pretty damn soon. Bye.